Maze Runner: The Death Cure is just around the corner, so as we got another YA genre movie coming out, and I just did a theological analysis for the first Hunger Games movie, I thought, what a brilliant idea to rank all 4 Hunger Games movies from worst to best. How would you rank these movies? Welcome to Durbania, I'm Durbin, and this is my ranking of all 4 Hunger Games movies from worst to best. I did recently do a theological analysis for the first Hunger Games that was Patreon requested, so it was really fun to go back and watch that movie again and dive into it deeper for theological analysis, and I really hunted for the 3 things that made Katniss a symbol. So if you want to check that out, make sure you check that out by clicking that link. Right now we're going to dive into this ranking, and I want to hear from you. How would you rank all 4 Hunger Games movies? Number 4, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. This one is in my number 4 position, my least favorite, because to me it was just the most boring. And really my biggest problems with parts 1 and 2 of Mockingjay is it's one book, and it's not that long, and they split it into 2 full-length movies, and so I felt like it just took away like the balance that was in the story, the balance that was in the pacing. It just broke that balance. The only time it ever really worked for me where you took the final book of a series and split it into 2 movies was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. You know why that worked for me? Because that book is about as thick as the Bible. It's like close to 700 pages or something. That book is huge. To tell that story in just 2.5 hours or even 3 hours, that ain't gonna do it justice, and especially since it's Harry Potter. And so to split that one in 2, it keeps being well balanced with its pacing and tells 2 parts of the story really evenly. So that worked really well. That didn't work so well for me with the Mockingjay because it's a much shorter book. So the first part 1, this is my least favorite because I was the most bored. It was all set up with no payoff. Now there were some really good things in this, and what sticks out to me is all the brainwashing of Peeta. And it sticks out to me because it was just so interesting how much he loved Katniss, but they capture him, and they just so brainwashed this guy and altered his mind to the point that they rescue Peeta, they bring him back, and there he sees Katniss, the woman that he loves, and if he wasn't strapped to that bed, man, he just would have got that woman. Gosh, I mean, like, that was freaky, and that was so well done. It was kind of how I pictured it and reading it in the book, so that part was really well done. So it's not that part 1 is like a total loss. It's not. There's a lot of good elements to it. I'm just telling you personally the big overall thing that kind of just brought it down for me. Number 3, Mockingjay Part 2. One of the things I liked about Mockingjay Part 2 is it was faster paced because it was all the payoff with none of the setup. So it was a lot of action, and I love action. It was also really interesting to watch Peeta in this one because he has to undo the brainwashing that the Capitol did. And he's asking people, is this real? Did that happen? Is this real? And so that was really interesting to watch him try to deconstruct what the Capitol did to his brain and get back at the truth of things and fighting that reaction that they brainwashed into him whenever he sees Katniss. So I thought that was an interesting plot. It was also interesting as they go into the Capitol. The city is booby-trapped like an arena from one of the Hunger Games. And so to me, like, all of that stuff really interesting. I really like the action, but one of the other bigger things that really pulls this movie down for me is the ending. And part of that is the book. I felt like, especially when you read the final book, it feels like Katniss settled. And, you know, Peeta doesn't deserve a settling, and neither did Gale. And it just really feels like the whole emphasis, because of the genre, it was all about this love triangle, and she settled for Peeta because she felt like she owed him. You know, dumps Gale simply because he designed a bomb that accidentally blew up her sister, and so settles for Peeta. And I felt like we just saw how strong she was and what a hero she is, and we're ending her story with her just settling. And the movie, I think, did a better job with that. They did a better job building that up with her and Peeta, and at the very end making it look like she was happy and not just settling with him. So I'll give the movie that. But it was really hard for me to escape that feeling of settling, and it's also really hard for me to escape how much I don't like love triangles. It's just, Perhaps Smallville ruined me on that. I don't know. Number 2, Catching Fire. This one was fantastic, and one of the things that I really liked about this, I had just read the books before going in to see this movie, and I really enjoyed what a good adaptation this was from the book. And it was really cool watching, I remember that! I remember the birds and stuff from the book! I remember that! I remember the monkeys! Like, it was really cool to, like, catch that stuff that I remembered from the book in the movie, and I thought they did a really good job with it. Now, obviously, there's differences, but there's always going to be differences. I really liked the arena itself, you know, the fact that it was like this giant clock, and all these weird things were happening all around the map at different times, and them trying to figure all of that out. The other thing I liked is Finnick Odair, and I liked Joanna. I thought those are two great characters. I thought they were well casted, and I thought those actors did a great job, and they just added good chemistry to a good chemistry that was already existing, so it elevated it instead of bringing it down. So in watching Catching Fire, there was a lot of things that I really liked, and the fact that it was fast-paced, it was action, and had a pretty good story to me. You know, how the Capitol tries to force her back into the arena and to really stamp her out so it doesn't look like they're making her into a martyr. So, like, a lot of that stuff was just really interesting to me. So I enjoyed Catching Fire quite a bit. I thought this was a really good entry into the franchise. Number 1, The Hunger Games. This one is probably my number 1 because it is the one I watched most recently, and I watched it like looking deep into it for that theological analysis, going deep into, you know, things that I probably wouldn't have paid attention to before, but I really enjoyed doing that stuff, and it was really cool doing that with this one. Now, again, I don't like love triangle stuff, and as you're watching this, you could really, in the beginning of this movie, see where they're going to start setting you up for this love triangle, but that's probably because, you know, I've seen the other ones, and so I'm thinking about that even as we're getting into this. But, you know, once you get past that, once you get into the meat of this story, and you see how evil the Capitol is, how they're using hope as a weapon, a tool to manipulate the people, how they're using these games to punish the districts year after year after year while giving them a victor so that they feel like they have some semblance of hope, and so on and so forth. Like, it is interesting the way this explores just the depths of how far man can fall. But when you have a character like Katniss showing compassion on people and caring about people the way she does when the pressure's on and she's in this game, you can see how easily that just sparks the hope, how that kindles the fire of hope that we have more value on us than what the Capitol's placing on us. So, you know, a lot of that is really interesting as you're digging deep into this. So overall, I really did enjoy this, and I thought it was a great introduction to this entire franchise. So, there's my ranking of all 4 of these Hunger Game movies. How would you rank these movies from worst to best? Be sure to let me know in the comments. While you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian, and hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified for the next ranking video I drop. Also, you'll be notified on Friday when I drop my next comic book review for Batman Earth 1 Volume 1. Love this Earth 1 series. I just did all 3 volumes of Superman in the Earth 1 series. I'm excited now to take on Batman, and it is a great take on Batman, just like it's a great take on Superman. So can't wait to dive into that. Join me with that. So hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you're notified when all of that happens. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.